Hi guys, hope everyone's well. Back with a production board here. I'm sure you're all sick of watching my hand shapes and give you a bit more information that's relevant to stuff you can buy. So we have the Firewire Seaxe. You won't find all that much information on this one. Not many people have reviewed it. I was eyeing one up years ago and saw one come up locally that I missed, and then found out later that it was actually a mate of mine that got it, and I just said, hey, if you're selling it, let me know. So he did sell it and I'd got it. So here we go. So yeah, full disclaimer, I haven't really ridden this that much. I've only had a couple of rides. I've kind of got my heart set on a Seaside and Beyond, so I've actually ordered one of those. I've got my own fish that I made as well. It was really similar. But yeah, I just decided that I just fancied the Seaside and Beyond, and the new 610 version really suited me for numbers. So yeah, that'll be coming up at some point. So yeah, bit of a disclosure, I've only really ridden this a couple of times. I've only ridden it with a single and side bites. But I'll be able to give you some good feedback on the board, and at least you'll be able to see the board, because I think there's only Tommy Surfs that's done a review on this that I can find. There's not very many. So yeah, I definitely consider this a mid-length. It's a good shape. It's a nice outline. I like the nose. The nose is quite a sort of full, but not too full. And it's got nice low refined rails and a nice thin and narrow tail, but it's still got a little bit of meat up the front, and it paddles really well. The dims on this are 7.2, 21 1/4, 2 7/8, 47 litres. So the board paddles really well. Something that I really like is, like, it paddles well, it's got good volume, it's refined in the rails. It actually isn't that bad to duck dive, but I really prefer my mid-lengths to be 7 or 610 pretty much. Once I go over 7, being short and fat, I need boards that are short and fat, or they just get too difficult to duck dive, or I can duck dive them but there's too much of a delay to get them sunk under. So I kind of wanted to put the same volume as this into a shorter package with a wider tail for the local stuff. So I just decided that I'm going to sell this and get the Seaside and Beyond. So yeah, cool things about this: nice outline. Wingnut boards are really good as well. I've had the Wingnut nose ride. I've actually had 2 of them. They go really well. A lot of Wingnut's designs are really good. They're actually generally done with I think it's from one of Robert August's guys, Sean Martinson. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. And then I can't remember who designed this with him. I'm not sure whether it was another collab or whether Dan Mann might have got involved in this, but anyway, his boards come out really nice. So nice outline, little bit of a squash, but around, it's almost like it's not a squash tail, but it's not a rounded tail. Like, you've got some elements of a round in that rail, and then you got this little squash at the end of it, nice and thin. Nose is a really nice shape and size. The rocker's really nice. The rocker's like just a nice sort of flat to mid rocker. And say you'll probably be able to see there's quite a refined tail, and the rails are beautiful. Like, rails are, they're a bit like I tried to do on my board. You've got this thick deck, but the actual rails, when you come down here, are nice and refined, and they've got a lot of rounding in them, nice and forgiving. And then you'll see up in the nose, it's kind of like that thins out quite nicely as well, but also really smooth. And one of the unique things about this board is it's actually, I would call it a rolled V, or like it's kind of like a belly bottom. I'll show you properly when I show you through the concaves. It's definitely not a hull, but it's definitely higher here all the way through the board than it is everywhere else. So it's like it kind of rolls off from here to the rail. It's got a roll to it, and I think that's really nice. It rolls off and smooths into the edge, and then rolls a really nice tuck. So the bottom is a little bit similar to the CI mid. I've seen the CI mid. The CI is possibly a little bit more aggressive. That's kind of a rolled V all the way through as well. It's kind of a rolled bottom, and the CI mid's got fuller rails. So yeah, it's like I say, the whole style bottom, it's definitely not a whole bottom, but the more you go from a concave bottom to a bellied or holed bottom, they have some different characteristics. Now The concave bottoms are more likely to give you lift. Some of the hull bottoms kind of suck the water a bit more. So on an extreme version of a hull, you're gonna find your hold in the pocket, and maybe you can't drive around the pocket quite the same. But this is like lightly hulled. So I think when you get a light hull or a light rolled V, I think that's all around making it a very smooth rail to rail flowing board, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're aimed at with this. So you've got this like round rolled bottom, and you've got this nice round forgiving but low rails, and then there is the normal hard edge release off this quite thin tail. So it's quite a clever design. I really like the design, and then there's a versatility of you've got the slider box and the quads, so you can go. I've only ridden it as a single and side bites, so you can go single fin with side bites. You could go twin fin, although it's not really in the right position. Ironically, the twin fin, but this back one's almost closer to where I'd put a twin fin personally. And then, you know, you can go single with sides, quad, twin. You could even ride it as a thruster if you wanted to, if you get one of the converted box fins. So it's very versatile. One thing I did notice is, for some reason, and it probably works fine with the thin tail, but the fin boxes are reasonably far forward. I think, if anything, I would say, looking at the fin positions, I would say this has been designed with the single and sides a little bit more in mind than the quad. If I was positioning those fins myself, I'd say this leans slightly more to a single and side bites. But the guy who sold it to me, my mate, he's ridden it as a quad and loved it as a quad. So nothing to say there's anything wrong with the fin positioning. Like I say, this tail as well is so skinny that if you chop the last 2 or 3 inches off this tail, it wouldn't make that much difference, I don't think. Not that I'd advise doing that. So yeah, that's the board. Timbertek construction, you probably find out all about that on the Firewire, but basically Firewire website. But they're basically EPS core, so EPS blank, and then they have 3 mil Polonia deck top and bottom, and then the rails are a combination of balsa and Polonia, and they're about 1/2 inch deep, I think. So the rail's actually a parabolic stringer. The boards don't have a stringer through the middle. The rail being thicker is actually essentially a stringer that goes all the way around the outside, which gives you a more torsional and less just directional twist. You can imagine, obviously, a string is like an I-beam all the way through, so it's not going to give in multiple directions the same, whereas the parabolics can kind of twist a bit more. That's the general consensus. But yeah, they're pretty durable. You want to be a bit careful to do repairs. If you get a ding in them and you get through to the wood and you let it soak water in, it's not going to be good. But they're generally very durable. You'll probably not even have a pressure ding on them after you've ridden them for quite a while. Weight of this isn't too bad. One thing about the Timberteks is they will generally be a little bit heavier than like an LFT or a helium, so that can be good because you're going to smash through chop and have a little bit more momentum from that extra weight. So sometimes people can like them. They certainly feel pretty good in the long board. Some of the shorter boards, they can start to feel a little bit too stiff. You know, if you had but some of them, it doesn't matter. Like if you have a baked potato, that shape's not going to be a super flexible shape anyway in terms of the board's flex, because it's such a chunky little nugget. So, and again, the Timbertek's last stages, and they smash through the chop pretty well. So yeah, that's the board. Won't go on for too long, but it's just really nice board, nice rocker, nice shape. I guess it was probably in a bit ahead of its time. The mid-length revolution's kind of on now, like the twin fin revolution was on now. You know, it's like whatever's trending at the time. So this was probably a bit ahead of its time, but it's right on point for everything that a mid-length should be. So yeah, if you see one of these and you see one second hand or on discount, probably a really good board to pick up, to be fair, and they're going to last well. Say the ride's quite nice. I don't think there's a I don't personally think, I know some people were saying they don't ride amazing in small ways, possibly due to the bottom, and had it in a couple of different ways, like small to medium, and it felt all right to me. And I think it would actually handle, with the right fin setup, it's you know, it'd handle a decent size wave as well. So I think it's like a lot of mid-lengths that they're going to ride a lot of. They're very versatile. If you could probably ride an overhead point brake quite happily, and then a small 1 to 2 foot beach brake quite happily as well. So yeah, that's the board. I'll show you the concaves, and other than that, thanks for watching. And again, 7.2, 21 1/4, 2 7/8, 47 litres. So right around the volume, absolutely everything that I would usually want in a mid-length. If this was the same volume and 2 to 3 or 4 inches shorter, probably be a bit of a keeper of board, really. I don't think I'd be selling it, but like I say, I really like quads, and I like the speed of a fish, and I like my seaside. So seaside and beyond is my choice for this, I'm afraid. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you soon. So just running over the concaves on the Seaxe. I mean, in this case, I should really say just running over the bottom on the Seaxe, because there isn't any concave. So basically, you'll be able to see from all the way up front here. I'd basically call this a rolled bottom, or a rolled V, or a very slight bellied bottom. It's definitely not a full hull bottom, but so you'll see this clearance here at the edges, and it's basically a bit of rolled V, which is actually common in some of the older mid-length designs, and also is exactly what the CI mid looks like from looking at the CI mid. So this roll is basically a rolled V that gets more aggressive as we go through the board. So this is just gonna help that same principle as V usually creates in the tail, where it allows the rocker at the stringer to stay more straight to generate speed, and the rocker at the rail to be increased to help you with turning. Obviously this board doesn't have a specific stringer, but you know, you get the principle. So you can see as you go through the fins, it's quite a bit more rocking that rolled V. So this is all just going to help you to turn over onto rail nice and smoothly, and then you've got that in combination with these nice rounded rails and a fin tail. So yeah, so you know, it's a good design. Here's your nice rounded rails here, so that, and then a nice refined tail, and still a little bit rounded in the back. So yeah, like I say, it's not a whole bottom. There's advantages and disadvantages to these different types of bottoms. Sometimes like a full hull would definitely be more like sucky on the water, and I think they supposedly have a really nice smooth feeling, but your disadvantages are going to be that you can't necessarily generate speed around and down through pockets and stuff that you can on a board with concaves. But on this board it's not extreme, so it's really everything that I see in the bottom of this board is just to help it to be a smooth rolling, smooth turning, really easy to link board, and that's kind of how the board feels. And it's also similar principle in the CI mid. I'd say this has got a more refined rail than the CI mids that I've seen, but it's quite thick in the deck. Yeah, so that's the bottom basically, and like I say, you got to think about these bottoms in context of the whole board. There's nothing that says a flat bottom's completely wrong, or a belly bottom's completely wrong, or a V's completely wrong, or a concave bottom's completely wrong. They all do different things well, and they can all be used with other elements of board design to offset the negatives of that particular feature. So you got to keep that in mind when you look at the bottoms of boards.